Hi there, welcome to the channel. I hope you're having a great day. This is Studio Visitor, the place where we talk about gear, philosophy and history. In this episode I took the invitation of Joshua, and Joshua runs his own company, Acoustic Labs. He's mastering not for long, but he's a quite competitor in this game. He had a lot of interesting details to share about the studio, because he did a lot of his on his own, DIY. My name is David Jones, I'm the studio visitor. This is yet another day, another story to tell. Let's make it happen. Joshua, welcome to the channel. Thanks for having us up, thanks for the hospitality. It's an incredible room you're in. How did you got to design this?
Yeah, nice having you, Davey.
Thank you.
Basically, I was looking for a space for years, and then this came available, and the only limitation is that I'm not allowed to make structural changes, but it really sounded already very nice without any treatment, and I could get it for an affordable price, which is very difficult in Amsterdam to find something. And this was basically an opportunity that I really grabbed with two hands.
You designed the room yourself, also including the backdrop, the diffuser?
The diffuser, yes. Well, I do everything myself, or at least I try to do as much myself, just to limit cost, and sometimes it's very hard to do stuff, so there's a lot of research and a lot of advice that you need from professionals, but I knew I needed a diffuser on that wall, and so I designed the diffuser, and basically I just measure the room and I see issues and I fix them, and I try to fix them as within my capabilities, not only cost but also technically skilled.
How did you measure your room?
There's a very popular program called Room EQ Wizard.
Yeah.
It's free. You can pay for it, but it's a sort of a scientifically valid measurement software
program.
It's amazing. Yeah, it can do a lot of trickery with your measurements, because when you measure it, it really doesn't look nice, and you have to analyze the data, and it gives you a lot of tools to analyze it, so you can actually extract the data that you need and address those issues.
So after measuring the diffuser, what parts of the room did you take more into account?
Basically, the problem is always the first reflections. So the mirror points on the sides, on the ceiling, and the back. I chose this speaker system based also on the fact that it is a cardioid system, which means it doesn't throw the sound behind the speakers.
Only straightforward.
Only straightforward. So that's why you see like not much a bass trapping behind the speakers.
It's true, because these speakers are rarely seen in mastering studios, but that's obvious a choice for. Can you tell us why?
Yeah, so
cardioid.
Went into this room, my old speaker system, which I thought I worked on them for 20 years, and I know them as well as I know myself. I could work with them everywhere except in this room. There was no, the low frequencies completely were gone. They it just didn't have enough power. So then I knew, like, okay, I have to get some grown-up speakers, and I asked around. I was sort of looking for second-hand BMWs, like 801s, like really the big guys.
Crystal clear, punchy sound. I love them.
Exactly, but they're very hi-fi.
Yeah.
And for mastering, that is actually
A good
fine.
job.
It is good. But then I talked to Jeffrey, the Goose.
Jeffrey is a legend in the game.
He's a legend, and his setup is amazing. And I asked him like, oh, I really love that you have those 802s he has, I think.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of getting the 801s, bigger. And he says like, well, if I would have to choose now for a new speaker system, I would look at key. And these are keys. And I'm glad that he gave me the heads up, like maybe you should not limit your search for BMWs. And yeah, I got to hear these, and I was immediately sold. I'm the third one in Holland to have the Key BXT, and BXT is the Key 3 plus the bass extension, which is necessary for mastering.
Talking about mastering, you're in comparing to the other ones we did interview on the channel, they have a history from 10 years plus into the game, but you're pretty new into this game in Holland.
Yeah.
Can you tell me how you got the choice? Did you wake up one day, hey, and you told to your wife, hey, I'm gonna be a mastering engineer, or is it something different?
I'm actually educated as a sound engineer.
But a classic sound engineer.
Yeah, what do you call classic? It's
Classic
like
with analog board.
oh yes, the Royal Conservatoire in The Hague. There's like this audio department, sound art, I think it's called, and there, yeah, we were taught how to record in studios and how to do live registrations of orchestras. It's less pop, it's more jazz and classical, and it has to be really pure. So we don't like to color things.
No, that is later on, that is a whole different process, but I think capturing the essence of a sound is how you got taught. It's the best way to learn it.
Yes, I think so too. I think it all starts with the microphone.
It starts with the source.
Yes, exactly, with the player, actually, the performer. Yeah, if the performer sucks, then your recording will also suck. Yeah, true. I never pursued a career in audio engineering after my studies. Instead, I started programming DSP in Amsterdam. I did like 25 years of sound, live sound for cover bands.
Yeah.
And I did some producing of some local talent. And I thought like, yeah, what would be my career choice next? And I found out like the most ideal situation would be to work with really nice boutique audio. Like I want really good sound and really...
I got the same desire, you know that?
yeah, you know it, right? Like, so it is to have this control about the sound, control of the sound.
Yeah. That is a challenge.
And it's a challenge, and it starts with good gear.
Good gear.
And good ears.
Good ears.
And like the older you get, the less your ears become. So I thought like if I want to do mastering, if that is what I want to do, I should start now. So I canceled all my live engineering stuff and rented this room and started building. Basically it started with friends asking me to master an album. And then I noticed like how limited I was with plugins.
Yeah. That's a big debate, but I understand where you're coming from. Back in the days, you needed to do it analog because there was no other choice. But nowadays, you can have best of both worlds. That's my way how I like it, but I understand where you're coming from. But how to generate work? It's not only that friends are asking you to master a song, or even an album, but...
Yeah, so I started 3 years ago. Perfect timing, just when COVID hit
us.
Yeah, that was sort of interesting.
When exactly how many days prior the first lockdown did you start your career?
And I think it was
Months?
like a month before, like in
Like
January,
February?
December, I started mastering Gijs van Stralen. He's like a percussionist.
Yeah.
He's an old friend of mine, and he released his, yeah, he recorded his debut album, and it's only percussion. I love percussion, and I told him about my plans to start mastering, and he was all in. He says like, okay, please master my debut album. So that also gave me like, yeah, well, my first paid assignment, and also to really force myself to have everything set up. And for mastering, you need to make it better. You cannot make it worse.
No.
So when you're working with these kind of artists, it's very important to deliver.
It's not only about the artists you're working on, but it's every client.
I know, yeah.
Every client is a client, and every client is just as important. Every client you need to deliver.
Yeah.
And that's
well, but
that's the hard
you know,
part.
yeah, okay. But if you then look at how much exposures these the bigger artists have, it just makes you more realize like, oh shit, I'm not allowed, I cannot fuck this up.
You're raising the bar for yourself when you got clients like Gijs.
Yeah.
You push the limit even more than for a regular client.
Well, not really, but you become more nervous, so to speak.
Right. You just do the trick.
Well, it's not a trick. It's searching for like what. First of all, mastering is about quality assurance. Like, how does this translate to other speaker systems? Are there problems in the recording? Are there problem in the mix that I have to fix?
Do you turn down tracks when you notice there are issues you can fix in the mix, or do you try to fix it?
I listen to the mix, and then when I spot problems, the first thing is like, is it for me? Is it easier for me to fix, or is it easier for the mixing engineer to fix? Often the artist has like an idea which sound they want. They have their heroes. They want to be in that scene, so they already have like sort of an idea how they want their album to sound, and basically I will give remarks how to get the mix in that ballpark.
Comparison in 3 years ago, how many things have changed for you since you started?
I had to sort of see what clients wanted actually, how the market is. Most of it is streaming, and I wanted to go completely analog actually. That was my start idea. Like, okay, analog is the way to go. I actually went from plugins to analog. Like, I could.
How's it now?
The sound I can get from analog is like incomparable. A lot of engineers will tell you.
I know, I'm one of them.
Yeah, okay. But then, you come to the last step in mastering, which is limiting.
Nobody beats digital limiting.
Exactly. So that's where I sort of found out, like, okay, the loudness where might be sort of over, which I'm
far from over.
Exactly. My masters became louder every year, and it's basically I can blame YouTube Music. That's
yeah, you can,
because they don't do normalization, which means that like whatever you play in YouTube Music, if you have a playlist with AC/DC and your track is next to it, if you keep the minus 14 loves, it will fall through, So you have to then sort of say like, okay, I don't care about being in a playlist with AC/DC, but the artist might really care about it. So So that is also like, oh, I always ask like, how loud do you want it? Do you want to compete with artists that are louder, or don't you care? You just leave it up to Spotify, for example, to normalize it. And often the artists will really think about it. Some are very decisive, like, no, it has to be as loud as possible. Okay, fair enough.
As loud as possible, no transients on the peaks.
Yeah, so of course I will tell them like, yeah, you will lose dynamics. Yeah. And they will ask me like, what do you mean? And then with an attended mastering, I can let them listen to it.
You also can show them by executing to a final waveform. So this is what you want. This is how it, and they see like, okay.
Yeah, well, yeah. Visually, it's always scary to see like this big block. I sort of tend to not try to look too much at the waveforms, but more use my ears, and often they I can really let them hear like, do you want kick or do you want ick? Ick, ick, ick. You know, like, and I say, oh, you know, you want a little kick. Okay, a little kick. So I can sort of steer the artist to what they want, to make really decision on how they want to present their music. So the loudness war is not over by far.
So your method of working is like hybrid? It is.
Basically, yes. So I started out in the beginning with only plugins before I actually moved to this room, by the way. I just did some mastering for friends, and I would do that like on my laptop, on my Hefler monitors at home, and it was all in the box. But then I bought a VCA compressor, the Cold Tube. SPL Cold Tube.
Still on my list. Don't tell my wife.
And yeah, I started building my EQ, and from that moment on, I was hooked. Like, I want this sound. I want to go outboard. I like the color of the analog gear, but to have complete control over dynamics, you better stay in the box. Basically, I start with pulling the mix through Fab Filter, Pro Q3, just to clean it up. Sometimes it needs some de-essing. I like to sort of also put like a dynamic EQ using Pro Q3 on like the sibilants, like on the 7K. And then I will actually send it through my interface to my outboard gear.
What's the first component that hits your analog chain?
I have it currently routed that it will hit the EQ first and then the compressor.
The EQ is like a Soundtech style of EQ. You built it yourself. Is it the specific reason why you built it yourself?
Yeah, like this is not a real Soundtech. It's a Soundtech type. It's a sort of a clone. And outboard gear, especially when you go into the boutique outboard gear, it gets expensive very fast. These things are not made anymore. You have to really find them and then find them for a good price. It's unaffordable, for me at least.
Finding a Soundtech for a good price, that is the real deal. Man, I wish you luck.
Yeah, so this one was inspired by GML, Soundtech kind of EQ. And Igor traced it and made like the prints available, the PCBs available, the printed circuit boards. And basically you can buy the circuit board, and then you have to order all the parts yourself and the case, and you have to build it yourself. So it's not only an affordable start because you can just start. In the end, you will find out it's actually just the same price as the original one.
Yeah, but the fun of building a unit like that yourself,
And learning electronics, it's really fun to do. It's really it gives you sort of a lot of satisfaction. It's
you got a background in DSP programming, but you also got a background in electronics, or just like me, I skipped school and I learned electronics by reading a book from the library?
Sort of. My grandfather was like a radar technician.
Really?
In the army, and he was building radios and amplifiers in his attic all the time, and I would always help him destroy stuff because I could only destroy stuff. He would give me like something that he could not use anymore, and I would just rip it apart. And then at a certain stage, like when I was 10, like I wanted to build stuff. I was fed up with Lego, like give me electronics. So I was starting building electronics at an early age, but not audio electronics, but more digital electronics,
Really?
discrete logic they call it. So it's a lot of LEDs, LEDs, and like really visual.
The fun stuff.
Toys. I was basically building toys, electronic toys.
At the age of 10 years, that's quite early.
Yeah, so, but yeah, when you hit puberty, girls become more important. So you start playing in a school band, right?
Yeah.
So that is suddenly more important.
Okay, man. After the EQ, what hits next in your chain?
Yeah, so after the EQ, the signal is processed by the VCA compressor. It's a very transparent compressor, and basically it's only for gluing the mix, just to make it a little bit
Catching peaks and bringing it all together.
Exactly, just to slightly top off the peaks.
I mean, the cool tube is a great unit, but as long as you don't slam it, and by slamming it, means really hard compression pumping.
Yeah, well, the cool tube is very forgiving, actually. And this has this progressive time control.
Yeah.
So if you ever hear pumping and you cannot tune it yourself, the release times or the attack times, you can just use the progressive time control. And it will help you eliminate these pumping effects. So it definitely is a nice tool to have.
Yeah. It's a unit that's still on my list.
Yeah, it's a tool. It's a real tool.
Next in your chain?
Next it will hit the tube vitalizer.
It's
also
on my
SPL.
list.
That is really a color tool.
It is.
It's all about color. Sometimes I never actually use both at the same time.
Okay.
I tend to because the vitalizer also compresses. So
some sort of.
I don't like the combination of both. So I would either choose the cool tube or the vitalizer, whatever the mix needs. If the mix needs a lot of coloring, then I would skip the cool tube, go to the tube vitalizer. The nice thing is the gain stage, where you can say like how much transformer sound do I want, like how much warmth do I want to add. It can be too much very quickly. This is basically my current my go-to chain.
But here in the rack, we need to talk about this one. I mean, the first time I saw it in the rack, it looks like a manly slam. But then again, I read it's your own logo on top, and it says DAW dual analog optical compressor with a tube end station, if I'm not mistaken.
It's actually analog. I actually only know analog, so
yeah,
I don't know if that is his real name.
Yeah, really.
Anyway,
he's a German, and he's a great engineer. He makes great DIY projects.
Basically, this is like only the front panel of a Manly Slam, but behind it is just a custom DAW
You just
compressor.
removed the front plates, parts, and
If you look at like the front panel of the Mini Slam has these insets that you can actually screw out. So I just ordered I designed and ordered my own insets, and that's how I came to this to this form.
great sounding unit. On top of that, the Junger Accent 2. What can you tell us about that? Because you don't see these much.
It's people want to buy it from me all the time. I actually just got it. I've only used it once on one master. I have to get used to it. It has this upward compressor, and that's a completely different sound than I'm used to. It is famous for the 90s rock sound.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
On top, famous SSL bus compressor clone.
Well, this is not the bus compressor, and it is not a clone.
Okay,
This is the compressor, which is in every SSL 4000 channel. This is the channel compressor, and these are the original boards that are in the channel in the SSL,
including the original VCAs, the gold cans.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Well, the gold cans, I'm not sure if they're in the channels.
Can,
I don't think they're in the channel compressors.
Only on the
only on the bus compressor. Yeah. So it is very grabby. I was hoping it would be sort of like the bus compressor, but these are the channel compressors.
Really?
But it was a nice find.
You don't see that much. But it's a DIY product or?
No. These are the original SSL boards.
Because there's no brand at all on.
No, somebody in Japan built this.
Okay, over there, we got the Focusrite ISA pack.
Yeah, that is not used for mastering at all. That's just for grabbing voiceovers. Sometimes I do voiceovers here.
Well, I love it.
And the gain stage is like with the tube vitalizer, you can really color the track.
Color it and loud.
Yeah. It's for tracking, it's amazing.
Below that, there's a Motu 828.
Yes, everybody would say like, why a Motu? And why an old one, like a Mark II, an 828 Mark II? Why? Actually, the bit accuracy of this machine is so high that it can compete with modern converters.
You need to explain that.
We all went from 16-bit converters to 24-bit converters, and everybody says like it sounds better. But if you actually measure it, like if I put a signal in and out, or I put a signal out and in, how much of those bits are still the same? Like how accurate is the conversion?
Yeah.
And then you will find out that actually the last 4 to 5 bits is just noise of the machine itself, of the converter itself.
So
basically
19 bits are left, 18?
At most, yeah.
Also with this machine?
Also with this machine, but this one sort of competes with the current high-end converters and is like a fraction of the price.
Okay, but high-end converters like Lynx Helio, as most of mastering engineers.
Yeah, well, that would be an upgrade, but I think people cannot hear the difference between this one and a Hilo.
It's true for me, at least for me. At some certain point, you gotta ask yourself, what do I spend to any kind of machine? And do hear people, even fellow engineers, do they hear the difference?
It's tricky, and for me, it's like when I master, I try to do no harm. I don't want to make it worse. I don't want to make the mix worse than they gave it to me. So I think my signal chain is one of the parts where, especially when you go outboard, where you can do a lot of harm to your signal.
Yeah.
And I think conversion is the first harm you do to a signal.
Too bad. It's all about the source.
Exactly. So I try to spend my money on, of course, a lot of coloring tools, but also I have to really keep in check, like, what is the harm that I do to the signal. So the more bit accuracy I can get from my converter, the less harm I do. I want to say scientifically, but I mean like measurable. How much harm do I do measurable?
Okay, you said scientifically and measurable. Has that anything to do with your background as DSP programming engineer?
It sort of is like when I write algorithms, I always do a null test. Like if I like the bypass button,
sure.
you know, like
what comes in needs to come out as well.
yeah. If I subtract both signals, there should be no noise at all. It should be just a zero signal. Like
just a null test.
That's what we call a null test.
Yeah.
Bypass.
We got some measuring on top of the desk. TC Electronic. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that is basically more a visual tool for my levels.
Okay, from here we go back because we need you need to deliver a signal. You can get the coloring in the analog chain, and now you go back to
Yeah,
the
so
limiting stage.
yeah.
What can you tell us about your limiting stage and that's the final stage?
Okay, from this moment on, it comes back into the box. Then I do a lot of parallel compressing, or parallel processing, and one of them is compression. I use the TC Electronics 6000 MD4. It's a one-on-one copy of the System 6000 MD4.
From the MD4, where do you go next?
Well, it's not going next because we're in parallel processing now.
Yeah.
Eh? So I just mix in this this multi-band compressed signal.
Yeah.
I mix it in slightly with the original mix that came from the outboard gear.
Roughly how many percent? The average.
It depends on the track, what it needs. This was a rock track. Okay, yeah. So, but I compress it and then I do plus 12 dB. So I it's pretty loud in there, like 50-50, I think. 50-50.
50-50, okay.
Yeah, because it's.
You get a nice average signal of the both of them.
From this moment on, I do only parallel. So there's always like say half of the sound that you hear is the analog gear, and then on top I have some
sausage.
Since I'm so fan of the System 6000, I also have this the reverbs of the.
This
6000.
is actually a really great track, but not I don't see it used anymore in mastering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's actually a great track to get some widening to your sound and some depth into your sound.
Exactly, and that is when sometimes the mix just needs a little bit of air, a little bit
breathe.
of room.
Yeah, to breathe.
And the System 6000 reverbs are famous for being so natural that we don't even hear it. You know, that's why it's used in Hollywood all the time.
VSS is not actually part of the series, but the VSS verb by TC is one of my favorite.
Yeah, this is the VSS3. Finally, after the parallel processing, it hits the limiters, or like the final chain in my plugins. As you can see, I have like I have a complete list of final plugins that I can use, that I can choose.
So that's all about your flow, about you, and I was wondering, have you got anything left to say?
No.
Any advice you want to give to all the viewers on the channel?
Yeah, well, okay. Like the first advice is, yeah, if you're considering mastering or considering running a studio, yeah, just go for it. I know you sometimes have to wait for opportunities, but just grab all the opportunities you get and be ready for the opportunities when they arise.
Embracing is the hard part of all.
Yeah, and I can tell you, like this studios is costing this is costing me more than it earns, but I know it's an investment, and I know that it will, like years ahead, it will actually it will be the other way around.
But then again, on the other end, you did all buy it by yourself. It's not from the bank. It's already yours. You're making money with it. It's all for the future. So.
Yes, and so now I have just little clients.
You're getting there.
And just by hanging in there, it grows automatically.
It's all about delivering good work.
Yes, but also you have to be tenacious.
I had a martial arts career, and we had a saying on the gym: "It's all about commitment."
Yeah.
How bad do you want?
Yeah, exactly. And if you love music, you love engineering, then this is for me. This is a dream come true.
I'm happy. I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for your hospitality. This was this episode. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you up in the next one. Bye bye.